All right, so what it do? Welcome to another one for Al Cuerpo Boxing, to the body. So let's get with it. Let's talk some boxing. I'm really hungry, man. I'm about to make a nice steak, a nice potato, a salad. Before I do that, I had to get this across, man. So I'm gonna freestyle a bit. And last 2 days, I've been thinking about. Actually, I've been looking at the Crawford versus Madrimov fight. Like the more I watch it, the more of a fan the more of a fan I become of that fight. Because it was a good fight, right? Believe it or not. We got to see Crawford challenge 12 rounds. He had a fight at 154. And at the same time, if you're a fan of Madrimov, well, he showed up a good fight as well, right? But speaking of Madrimov, check it out, guys. Again, man, remember, I'm the skeptic here. I'm the skeptic about some things going in Riyadh season. And that's good, by the way. I have the right? You guys know me. I'm all down for Riyadh season. But we've seen some weird things here and there. But again, Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford. The authenticity, right? Because at one point in time, we had industry somewhat downplaying Canelo Alvarez's skills on the subjective pound for pound list, right? At the same time, contextualizing Terence Bud Crawford's position on the pound for pound list, right? And again, here's the crazy paradox and subjectivity about the list. That includes the opinions from pros, industries, fans, right? Oh, if this boxer was the same weight, if they were the same class. But at the same time, we're acknowledging boxers moving up in weight. We've seen legends, greats, recent greats move up in weight. But when it comes to a guy who was late going up in weight, because right now I'm not going to acknowledge so much that there's a huge size disparity. No, we'll get to that. But right now, there is a gap, and perhaps it's probably the selling point, right, for this fight. Why fans are hyped up, and I'm cool for it, right? Yeah, Terence Bud Crawford is going two weight classes above. As you guys know, I've said this before, and it's funny because a day after I made a video, luckily, I don't know if I should say lucky, but I don't know, the powers that be, the boxing gods, we got Bomac. I think it's Ring Magazine. They leak out a video, an interview where Bomac says, "Man, we should have been at 168 years ago or a long time ago." He says it in that manner, right? And I said it before that Terence Bud Crawford should have already been a middleweight champion, right? At 160. Guys, look at his physique, right? One guy starting from 135 and the other Mexican starting at 140. So more or less, they ain't that much apart. Others have said, yeah, there's a good comparison in that, okay, Alvarez started at a young age, 15 at 140, whereas Crawford, I guess, started at 17 at 135? No, I'm getting that wrong. I'm getting that confused. Sorry about that. One started pro earlier. That's nothing to do with the age, if you guys know what I mean. You guys got that right now. I got confused there a bit. But anyways, guys, back to Madrimov. I notice, are we doing a disservice to Israel Madrimov, a guy that has a nice pedigree in the AMs, in the Turkic Republic circuits, right? Uzbekistan, the whole Soviet world. I mean, if we're being honest, man, Madrimov's nice. He's nice. He's like Team Uzbek with Bek the Bully and MJ, right? The MJ that's gonna fight Inoue soon. That Uzbek world, right? So shout out to the Uzbeks. My personal experience sparring them, there's some hard ass dudes. Guys got some big ass hands, man. In these parts of the world, those Turkic Republic Bloods, they've got big ass hands. I don't know. It's just in the part of their genetic. So what's that mean, man? It's some more thudding power in those gloves, man. But Israel Madrimov, guys, we're not talking much about the Crawford versus Madrimov fight. And somehow, and why I make fun of commercialism in the game, we're talking more about Errol Spence, Bomac, and others, right? Maybe be it Bernie the Boxer or the pros, whatever. A lot of fans, a lot of Bud radicals, if you will, they're focusing on Errol Spence. But think about that. They're focusing more on Errol Spence when logically, realistically, they should be talking more about Israel Madrimov, the last guy Bud fought. The fight in which Bud went up to 10-ounce gloves at 154. That herky-jerky style that got Bud thinking to go 12 rounds. The fight in which Bud Crawford was eating a lot of right hands, taking a lot of left hooks on that guard, rattling Bud Crawford. How does Bud respond? He goes like this, nah, that's badass. I like that. That's good. But guys, that's at 154 power against an Israel Madrimov. All right? If you're a fan of that fight, you're a fan of Bud Crawford and Israel Madrimov. And again, I had Bud Crawford beating Israel Madrimov. I had called it a UD for Bud. I didn't say it was going to be easy, by the way, but I called it a UD. Probably back then I was thinking maybe 116 or 112, more or less. All right? So, guys, think about it. I just gave you some facts and some circumstance. Bud Crawford had a more difficult time with Israel Madrimov than Errol Spence. Now, I kid you not, guys. I ain't making this up, man. I'd swear on it. Trust me. That there are some guys in the scene, and let me think who might have said it, man. Maybe it's some former champ, some guys in industry. They literally said, nah, man, Errol Spence was damaged goods. Literally like that. They said damaged goods. And I can't believe why I forgot it, but that was like recently in this week or in the last week where some industry head said, nah, man, Errol Spence was damaged goods. And for some of us that are real in the game, that understand those type of injuries, personal experience, falling off bikes, and man, it's a good thing that helmets exist, even if you're intoxicated on a bike. All right, I'm talking from personal experience. All right, if I didn't have my helmet, I'd probably be gone. A lot of my friends would say, "Yo, man, you're lucky to be alive." Right? Brain damage, man, hitting that cement, that concrete, bang, cracked that skull. Luckily, I had a lot of people around me to foresee it. But going back to Errol Spence, man, flipping, I don't even remember how fast he was going on in that Ferrari, but damn, the dude flipped out of the car. And in my opinion, my opinion, I think a lot of those injuries were not disclosed. Some injuries weren't disclosed. All right. And again, think about why Terrence Bud Crawford, when he was asked by Canelo directly and others, I don't remember exactly the interviews or the press conferences, but Terrence Bud Crawford didn't mention Errol Spence as an elite. He didn't mention Israel Madrimov as an elite. That same Israel Madrimov fight, where if I want to sell the fight to the fans and to the public, or realistically, if I want to tell Canelo, yo, I just fought a guy that is more or less your complexion, not as heavy as you, but realistically, probably the guy heaviest I fought so far, and probably a guy that's closest to you. Again, Madrimov, Canelo. Madrimov, way more husky, way more hydrated of a physique than Errol Spence. Guys, Terrence Bud Crawford didn't mention Errol Spence. Think about that theory, guys. Think about how PBC tried to sell it. Shout out to Errol Spence, who said, you know what? Yo, Spence, let's do this fight, man. You know, I empathize your situation. I don't know if you're going to be out of the game, but let's run this game. Let's get a bag out of this. And luckily, Errol Spence was able to do it. I don't believe in the whole thing, well, the PBC didn't want to do it. I don't believe in that stuff. I think the PBC persuaded Spence to take that offer from Bud. What else did they have? What big fight could they get a cut from? All right, so then they made Errol Spence. The PBC side of the world, they acknowledged a fight with Terrence Bud Crawford. But again, guys, Terrence Bud Crawford didn't acknowledge Errol Spence as an elite fighter. Like, think about it. The radical Bud fans, they swear on the Errol Spence fight. Let me repeat that. The radical Bud fans, they swear on the Errol Spence fight, while at the same time, this radical, I don't know, how would you call this? The guy that they're looking up to, Terrence Bud Crawford, isn't mentioning that same guy, Errol Spence. Does that make sense, guys? Again, he didn't even mention Israel Madrimov. Now, guys, check it out. I'm not gonna knock so much on Bud for doing that because, again, if you guys know me and you guys know I keep it 100 on these theories and I back it up with logical receipts. But do you honestly think selling just Ricky Burns and Victor Postal as selling points when Canelo Alvarez is asking you directly, yo, who you fought? Name me some elites. I'm not gonna just stop with Ricky Burns and Victor Postal. Like, what does that make any sense, guys? What I get out of that is Canelo and Bud are trolling us, or Terrence Bud Crawford froze up in that moment. Like, Terrence Bud Crawford can't think, like, damn, Canelo got me. But if I was insecure in that situation, if I was insecure and Canelo's got me in the corner pinned thinking about it, of course I'm going to mention Madrimov and Errol Spence, right? Guys, think about that. So again, guys, even channels that like to troll the other fans and say that Canelo is the same thing as an Errol Spence or Errol Spence, Errol Spence, Errol Spence. Guys, man, hit the brakes, man. Hit the brakes. We need more videos talking about the Israel Madrimov fight. All right? Again, let me repeat that. If you guys really want to break it down, and those of you that are gamblers, are you really being honest to yourselves that you don't really want to talk about Madrimov because maybe, and this is for the radical fans, forget the gamblers or the transparent fans, right? Let's say maybe the reason why you're not bringing up Madrimov is because you're worried from that performance that it doesn't translate well to Canelo Alvarez. As a matter of fact, I think there's even testimonial, because I heard this before, and I want to think I heard it too, that after the fight with Israel Madrimov, when Bud and his team were asked questions, maybe it was in the post conference, they were pressuring Bomac, and Bomac had to respond and like, nah, the way we fought Madrimov, we can't fight Canelo that way, right? Let me repeat that. The way we fought Madrimov, we can't fight Canelo that way. So we can interpret that like, okay, we got to do some adjustments, or we did some errors. At the end of the day, guys, they still beat Madrimov. That's good. Have pride in that, man. have pride that you beat Israel Madrimov. That was a tough fight. Use it. Sell it. Why downgrade that elite fighter? I think Madrimov's an elite fighter. He was a champion in that fight. Why downgrade and just talk about Errol Spence? That's towards the Crawford crew. That's toward even fans that are making videos only talking about Errol Spence. Like, yo, guys, wake up, man. Talk about Madrimov. The same Madrimov that went 12 with Virgil Ortiz. Let's forget about how Virgil Ortiz couldn't stop Madrimov, or I should probably focus on that. Let me repeat that. Virgil Ortiz, the bigger guy from Madrimov and Terrence Bud Crawford, the bigger guy, couldn't stop Israel Madrimov. So what does that say about Madrimov? It says that Madrimov is a true player. Madrimov is a good measuring point on how you want to evaluate the Madrimov versus Crawford fight going into the Canelo fight. You guys know what I'm feeling, man. You guys know what I'm saying. You know why? Because at the beginning of this video, I told you guys, if you're really like looking at the mistakes I know you guys, man. I know a lot of you have been looking at that Madrimov fight as of late. And guess what? That's good. It amps us all up because we want Crawford to fix those mistakes in that fight. Fix those mistakes in the right crosses, right? By the way, guys, if you're really a fan of Terence Crawford, like me, if you look a lot of bag work throughout the years, guys, Crawford still focuses on orthodox. He focuses on orthodox. The reason why Terence Crawford goes southpaw is because he's banking that his opponents feel uncomfortable with southpaws, not southpaw Crawford, southpaws. Get it? Pause. Yeah, pause up for a second. But Terence Bud Crawford is focusing on that his opponents have trouble with southpaws. Now, fair game to Crawford. That's brilliant. Crawford's looking at his opponents. Crawford looks him and Bomac and the team. They're looking at the opponents he's about to face and looking at their resumes with what southpaws they've faced, right? So Crawford has that confidence and that motivation, thinking, okay, these guys don't have that southpaw work, so I'm gonna just start it off with that, or I'll switch it up 80% southpaw. That's the type of guy Terence Bud Crawford is. Damn it, I get confused, man. I hope I was saying Terence Crawford the last 5 minutes. Okay? So again, guys, how did Israel Madrimov handle a southpaw? So then we transcend to breakdown theory, right? Techniques. Breakdown theory in that, how does Canelo Alvarez handle southpaws? Let's rewind, right? William Skoll, go backwards. Who was it? Billy Joe. Let's go backwards. John Ryder, by the way. John Ryder's a southpaw, if I'm not mistaken, right? That was a cool fight, too, by the way. Let's keep going backwards. Let's go maybe switch hitter, switching it up. Danny Jacobs, right? And of course, before that, Lara, Trout, and so on and so on. I don't know how many more, but we can pretty much measure that. So what does that mean, guys? I mean, Canelo, in my opinion, likes southpaws. Let me repeat that. Canelo Alvarez likes those southpaw works. And I'll say it again, because a lot of you have heard me say this before in other streams, in other lives. If Terence Bud Crawford in this fight switches up orthodox and southpaw a lot in different rounds, it means Terence Crawford is uncomfortable. Because he's like, damn, I can't do this against Canelo in southpaw. I can't even do this with my normal stance in orthodox. I can't do it. I can't figure out Canelo. He's figuring me out in any stance I do. So at the very least, I'm going to try and switch it up as much as I can, but it ain't working. And guys, again, I'm a fan of Crawford versus Madrimov. That's a great fight. I recommend you guys really watch that at least 2 or 3 times up to the fight. I guarantee you, as everything's heating up and brewing, you're gonna probably more start swerving towards Canelo. Full stop. Even the radical Bud fans that have picking Bud. All right, and that's not a knock on you guys. It's good to have hope. It's good. As a matter of fact, I'm like more the type to cheer for Bud to crack the code on Canelo, being that he's not acclimated at 168. The thing is that Bud, he's just a late bloomer going up in weight. Not that he's smaller or that he couldn't. It's that he's a late bloomer. And that's what you get. Now, this is the consequence of a situation where a Saudi Arab is throwing all this cash, which is dope, by the way. But being a late bloomer at this state does you a disservice. But whatever, you're about to fight a badass and you're getting a badass bag. Right? In my opinion, and I said it before, in order to dismantle Canelo, by the way, I think even Tim Bradley might have said it. Probably the only guy I've heard say it was Tim Bradley. But again, to even think this mode seems almost unlikely. But you might as well say it. To get Canelo, you got to have a strategy that we've never seen before to attack him to the body. How you do that? probing jabs, feinting, setting up a lot of jabs to follow up with a hard cross down the middle. For example, the way, if I'm not mistaken, was it Jermel Charlo, the way he popped a nice cross down the middle. Now, I wasn't a cross. I think it was a jab, by the way. The way he knocked out Jason Rosario, even though I thought that was kind of a. I'll reserve my opinion on that uh, scripted fight. You guys didn't see my lips there, right? Scripted fight in that. Poor Dominican probably wasn't gonna make a badass bag anyways. Yo, take this bag. Yo, Jason, take this bag. Just make sure you act good. But let's give benefit of doubt that that was real. Let's give benefit of doubt that that 20% outcome was real. Did I say that right? That's the type of power that Crawford needs to focus on Canelo. So give maybe 10 more of those type of shots on Canelo. I don't know how you're gonna feign it and do switch ups to get to those situations, because you got to be as fast as Jermel Charlo. And gosh, I mean, Canelo's waist endurance, his, what do you call it? The shit, how do you call that, man? His resistance. Canelo's waist attack resistance is leagues above a Jason Rosario. I might as well just even scratch that out, man. Sorry, sorry for being a skeptic for you radical fans that might have thought, or like, damn, Cuerpo's cooking, man. I like this now. I'm sorry, man. It's just like when you're freestyling and you start connecting the dots, it just comes to that. But anyways, in general, you probably want to have a nice badass game plan, something we've never seen before to attack the body. To the body, as I always say. You know? Paisa style. Cuerpo style. Paisa style. To the body. You know? Dale al cuerpo. So that's that, guys. So again, let's recap. You notice a lot of fans are, I don't even know if they're trolling, or maybe they lost, man. Maybe they lost some screws. And that's no disrespect to you guys, but really, you need to wake up, man. You need to drink some coffee or something, but don't focus, trust me, guys, don't focus on the Errol Spence fight. As a matter of fact, Team Crawford's World just mentioning Errol Spence, and to be fair to Bud Crawford, I haven't really heard Bud mention Errol Spence as a justification for Canelo. I know Bud Crawford mentions like, everybody's always doubted me and this and that. Okay, we get that, but that doesn't interpret to just Errol Spence, right? So we get that. My opinion, a damaged Errol Spence is, you can't even compare it to an Israel Madrimov. I think Israel Madrimov is even younger than Errol Spence, if I'm not mistaken. An Israel Madrimov that is taking firepower in training camps from Dmitry Bivol and Bektabuli. Of course, they're not going heavy on Madrimov, and Madrimov disclosed that too. But to make a point, a guy like Errol Spence, an Errol Spence in this post late of his career, post Ferrari flipping, he ain't taking firepower from a Bektabuli or Dmitry Bivol. And to jump from that, Canelo Alvarez taking firepower from a Dmitry Bivol in a real fight. In a real fight, okay? Not sparring, in a real fight, and taking firepower from bigger guys, from all these guys mentioned. That's how you set your gamble position. That's how you settle the betting odds. Realism, guys, realism. And it hurts me to say it. I feel sorry. It hurts me to say, don't focus on Errol Spence, because thanks to Errol Spence gave us a lot of good fights, right? In his time, in his prime, in his reign. But post Ferrari flip, sorry guys, I'm a realist. Those life-altering injuries make a difference in the ring. Billy Joe Saunders, who has a metal plate mesh around here, in his cheekbone and the orbital bone. He ain't cleared to fight. To be fair, I've got one myself, guys. I got a mesh here. It's a titanium plate. Sometimes when I'm going through German X-rays, because Germany are some haters, man. Especially Hamburg International Airport. Yo, what's up? Luckily, in the X-ray protocols, they can see that kind of stuff. But if why are they questioning, right? Some haters, man. I don't know. Maybe they're bored because I got a plate two in my arm. But the point being, with Billy Joe Saunders, I mean, you could offer Billy Joe Saunders 20 million, maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's a stretch. He'll probably do it. But offer Billy Joe Saunders a lot of cash to take another shot from like that against a Canelo for fun. Like forget a profile, just for fun. With 10-ounce gloves, say, yo, Billy Joe, can Canelo hit you in the exact same spot again, this exact same position, and we're gonna give you, let's say, £1,000,000. Will you do it? I think Billy Joe would decline that offer. He would decline that offer. Why? Again, there's a mesh there. That titanium plate is there for a reason, right? Can you imagine getting smashed again in that same area? It'd be bad. The point is, non-disclosed injuries with Errol Spence Jr. I don't know if Errol Spence has some plates in his head. Who knows? But dislocated jaws, in that sense of being flipped in a Ferrari, being flipped out of a Ferrari too. Who knows how that affects the mandible, right? La mandíbula, the jaw, as we say in Spanish. La mandíbula. A jaw that is already compromised. A jaw that it's even affecting the mechanisms of Errol Spence when he's talking. As if that's not proof enough. You can either think, okay, the jaw, maybe the jaw and the brain damage, or is it just the brain damage? Regardless, it's not a good look either way. Again, a damaged Errol Spence. And it saddens me that fans are only focusing on Errol Spence, or that Team Crawford are only selling Errol Spence as a justification for this fight, when fans and even Team Crawford should be focusing on Madrimov. For example, if I was Bud, or if I was Bomac, I would talk more about Madrimov to say, yo, okay, we did some slip-ups on the Madrimov fight. But in our opinion, the same way Sean Porter scored it, let's say that we dominated Madrimov. And again, guys, by the way, I've heard fans say that. You guys that know me, we've heard that before. We've heard streams and other groups that saying Terrence Bud Crawford dominated Madrimov. They've said that. Let me repeat that. They have said, some radical fans or maybe some optimists, maybe even some those that are transparent, if they want to say that Bud dominated Israel Madrimov, then why would they talk about Errol Spence? You're getting me. You following me? Right? You want to use Madrimov as a stepping point, not the Errol Spence. Madrimov was the harder fight, guys. Logically, you want to talk about the Madrimov win. Forget the Errol Spence win. So again, when fans are only focusing, and even industry, when you guys are only focusing on Errol Spence, you're doing Errol Spence versus Bud a disservice because you're not being honest. You're not going from Madrimov to Canelo. You prefer to focus on Southpaw Errol Spence to Canelo Alvarez. When realistically, you should be going orthodox Madrimov, 12 rounds, getting clipped with orthodox right hand Canelo Alvarez. You know what I'm saying? I mean, come on, guys. This is easy. And again, guys hate it when I talk about commercialism in boxing. You guys feel me? I hope I've made my point across very clear. We should be talking about the Israel Madrimov. And guess what? You guys know I'm right. You know why? You guys know I'm right? You guys know why I'm right. Sorry. Because lately you guys are watching that Madrimov fight, which is good. That's good. You're doing yourself a service as a fan that's saying, okay, this is what we got to do. These are the mistakes we shouldn't do going into the Canelo Alvarez fight because we have the Madrimov example. The rugged Madrimov that still went 12 rounds with Virgil Ortiz. right? An average 115, 113 with of Ortiz versus Madrimov. You guys agree with me? In the 150 world, 154 world, Madrimov is what you want to compare in justifying going up to Kenan Alvarez, not Errol Spence Jr. That's what I got on this. I'm gonna go make a badass steak right now.